So today we are here with Joe and Michelle, just getting a general lettings update. How are you guys?
Good, thanks.
All good.
It's good. So yeah, just some general update on lettings. So what's new in lettings? What's going on?
Well,
Wow.
at the moment, there's a lot, but nothing's set in stone as yet. But there is the Renters Reform Bill,
Yep.
which is just in the House and Commons at the moment, but it's nothing really set in stone. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of changes, they say, but a lot of amendments, changes. For
What sort of
renters.
changes are they looking at?
So there's different things like the Section 21 being abolished for landlords.
Yeah.
However, that obviously probably scares quite a lot of landlords,
Yeah.
but they have also strengthened Section 8s and bringing in different grounds on there.
Okay.
So that will be a positive on that side
Yeah.
for landlords as well. And we've got the EPCs.
EPC, yeah. So
It's another main one, isn't it?
Yeah, the minimum energy efficient standards. So that will change. It's 2025
Yeah.
and possibly again at 2028.
Okay, what
And-
sort of changes are they going to be bringing in? What does that mean for a landlord?
Well, they have to, the rating for the house needs to be a C or above.
Okay,
It's currently set in at E,
Yeah.
if landlords didn't know
quite a
that.
jump then to
Yeah.
get up to the C.
There is, and obviously there would be works that would need to be completed to bring it up to that standard or that level,
Yeah.
to a C. But again, there'll be lots of standards and probably grants or help out there from the government to bring it up to that standard. But again, it's one of those, it's still in discussion, it still hasn't been put out in place yet. But it'll be better for both landlords
Yeah.
and tenants, I think, will feel a little bit happier. with
Most
what-
landlords want to let a really good
Nice
property.
Yeah.
They don't want major maintenance, so they've maybe brought a buy-to-let investment that
Yeah.
is, maybe more of a modern build or has got a new heating system in
Yeah.
or boiler. So actually, those landlords aren't really going to have anything to worry about too much. It's more a lot older properties that are going to perhaps struggle.
Yeah.
But currently, at the moment, if there is major work needing to be done, there are exemptions out there on EPC.
Oh, okay.
So it will be interesting to see what they say when they actually bring out.
Yeah, so what does
This
that mean
new
if
law.
a landlord, if it's, that comes in at a C and their property's at an E, what does that mean for them? Are they not able to let it out, or do they have to do works in order to get it up to a C?
They will have to do
Yeah.
works to be able to rent it out. They have to bring it up to a C standard and probably then have to have it reassessed as well.
Right.
But I think for a lot of landlords, especially landlords who have got portfolios,
Yeah.
they probably want to sort of rationalise on what they have got and how many properties they've got and what they have. And
Yeah.
maybe then possibly sell off to be refurbished and then buy a newer property to keep that portfolio to a good standard. Because they want the income coming in.
Yeah.
It is all positive for both sides, landlords and tenants.
I had a landlord as well that, the property is at the point where they need to start investing money back into it. And we had the discussion on, shall we, spend some money on the garden and sorting that out because it was a bit of a blank canvas and, doing various sort of more cosmetic things. And they actually chose to spend the money this time on putting new ceramic electric heaters in because they knew this bill was coming in and that would help bump up the EPC rating on the property. So I think it's just landlords need to just think about what they're spending the money
Yeah,
on with their
for sure.
properties, for sure.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's getting that tenant in as well, so they're going to be happier if their bills.
Yeah,
with
they're gonna
stay
light and
longer.
gas, it's going to stay longer.
Yeah.
And it's not going to cost them as much, and
Yeah.
it's probably less maintenance, so less hassle for the tenants as well.
So it sounds all positive for the
It
EPC
does,
rating.
for
Obviously, there's no
definitely.
set date yet. It's
No.
2025,
Yeah.
2027.
Possibly, but again, who knows around that? It's the same with the Renters Reform Bill.
Probably a good, maybe around a year of actually
Yeah,
knowing
possibly.
what all this actually means in practical terms for a landlord.
Yeah,
Landlord,
but it's
yeah.
all being put in place. It's not meant to kind of cause any negativity towards any landlords and tenants. It's there to help them both, isn't it?
Yeah.
That these are
Yeah.
being put in place.
And again, the tenants will probably feel more secure
Yeah.
in that respect. But also with landlords, it's given them the opportunity to be able to have a look at if they do have to have the property back at a quicker way of getting it back rather than all the delays. But again, it's looking at the portfolios, looking and see what is better for them
Yeah.
as landlords, not just with the EPC, but again with the type of tenants they're having into the property. But then those tenants, they want them to be good. The tenants want the property to be at a good standard as well.
Yeah.
So it's a security for both. So there is a lot of positivity, and again, there's a lot of buy to rent out there. So it's positive in that respect,
Yeah.
and the fact that they're probably more modern as well. But the reform bill, there's so much uncertainty. There's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of amendments. We don't really know what's going to be put in place because it's still in the House of Commons at the moment.
It's up
by
for
the time-
discussions,
Okay.
isn't
so
it?
much discussion, and then by the time it goes through the House of Lords and then the Royal Assent, that's when it'll be put out to the public.
What
so
are the-
probably about 12 months.
What are the main things that are going to be changing with the rent reform bill? What is the main things that are striking out to landlords that you think they might be worried about? Or
I think it's in Section 21,
I think
the
that's
length of tenancies.
Yeah, but from like, you know, dealing with tenancies
Yeah.
all the time, you know, we rarely ever in my 20 years have had a landlord that wanted to do an eviction on a tenant that was completely out of order.
yeah,
And
of
that's
course.
what they're trying to stop, basically.
It's
So
like no-fault
the average
evictions.
landlord is going to want to sell their property, or they're going to want to move back into it, which they'll still be able to do.
Yeah.
You know, evicting someone who's a nuisance tenant, they will have to go to court and prove it and go down those lines. But the main reasons, like not paying rent or late payment, the landlord is still all protected with the new
what's the
guidelines.
Section 8, that will
Yeah.
actually be better, and it probably actually reduce the timeline as well for to get the property back if it was rent arrears or anything under the discretionary mandatory grounds. But again, those are going to change and be amended as well.
Yeah, so the positive for the tenant is that they're secure unless there's a genuine reason, you know, in order for them to leave, such as rent arrears or landlord selling or landlord moving back in. You can't just...
Because they're talking about having a fixed tenancies or periodic tenancies. We don't know, again, the length of time for those fixed tenancies. So, again, that's more security for a tenant, but also for a landlord. If they've got an income, they need that income coming in as well. If it's, you know, for... it's a portfolio, obviously, that income's there for a reason. And it's better putting it into property, in my opinion, than it is whether it be in a pension or in the bank, because you are going to see the profitability in years to come as well. If you do decide to sell or move back in, the property's still there for you.
Yeah, so what main advice would you give to landlords? Obviously, they're seeing this rent reform bill, they're seeing all these changes, they're kind of a bit worried about what's going to happen to them. What advice would you give private landlords to...
I would suggest don't make any knee-jerk reaction at the moment. Just do not. Not until we know a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because nothing's set in stone at all at the moment.
at
They
all.
could be making the wrong decision but yeah.
For definite. But also the fact that, because we don't know, always come to an agent who is registered with Property Mark or who have got all that legality, the knowledge there to be able to help them along as well. So go to a good reputable agent and ask their advice to help rent. But if you do have any properties being rented at the moment, don't make any decision just yet.
Are you finding like more private landlords are wanting to join in with an agency since this has come around, or are you just
100%.
finding...
We've had a lot of takeover management over this year alone, haven't we?
Yeah.
And a lot of landlords that I've spoken to of recent have come over to us from different agents because they've not been happy. They don't feel supported by their current agent. I think it's more than ever the relationship between an agent and a landlord is going to be crucial. So that the agent can actually help the landlord understand these new laws when they do come in place and what actually that means in practical terms and how to put that into practice with their tenancies. Because, you know, we have great big, you know, solicitors behind us that
you can call if you
we have
need.
Property Mark, like Michelle just said. You know, we all are qualified. That involves
That's good.
goodness knows how many hours studying and exams and things like that. So, you know, I wouldn't expect to know how to do any other certain job out there.
Yeah.
That's,
I suppose an agency is the best person to go to. They,
Because
like
we're
you said,
a
they're
bit of
qualified.
mediators,
You've got
Yeah.
we're there to supply and mediate for them, supply the information, supply a service.
Yeah.
Although I know possibly with this rent reform bill is the new ombudsman that will be coming in, so where landlords will have to sign up and register for that as well. So there will be a little bit more advice as well for tenants that will help with them, but also with landlords. So if they're unsure about anything, we can help them. We have got that support and those services
and
there.
a lot of time we mediate a lot of issues, don't we, for landlords and tenants, so it doesn't escalate to a costly and timely court case or anything like that. We can always find
Get it resolved.
get it resolved, which you know is definitely a big part of an agent's job. I would say.
Well, I suppose that a private landlord sometimes may feel alone if something's happened during their tenancies, and they don't know where to turn to. Having that agency there will kind of give them that
Yeah.
support that they need sometimes, and some advice.
It's literally only, yesterday that I was speaking to a landlord, and he just, it's quite something simple as the notice that his tenant had to give him. He just wanted to triple check how he was interpreting that in his tenancy was correct. And it's just having that support and that confidence, which I think will help landlords
and it's that
with
contact
that.
where they can actually build that confidence, isn't it? And then if they have got an agent, you'd be allocated, for instance, with ourselves, your own property manager, so you've got that one contact at all times, or whoever else you've met maybe at the start when
they've always got someone that can help them.
You've always got that point of contact there, which is, I think it's very useful in nowadays, because there's so many changes that's been happening in the rental
over the years.
industry.
It's
over the
drastically
years.
changed, hasn't it, since
Changed a
me and
lot.
you have been in
19,
it.
20 years. So it has changed a massive amount.
Yeah, so there's 168 pieces of legislation to follow.
Yeah.
Plus then obviously all the GDPR to follow as well.
So again, that sort of thing we have to be careful with.
And within the rent reform, as you said, there's 168 pieces of legislation. It's only a couple that's changing. So actually, it's not a drastic change for landlords to be worried about, with it only being a few little pieces here and there that's going to be amended. And it's there to help the tenant and landlord rather than to make anything
But it's all
worse,
still in discussion, isn't it? So it's one of those, there's so much thrown out there.
And this is always aimed at those rogue bad landlords out there, not your average landlord who wants a really nice tenant in their property, to them to look after it, for them, and to keep the property up to date. That isn't those landlords they're trying to catch with that.
No,
they're trying to catch the bad landlords out there. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. And you mentioned the property ombudsman. That's the redress scheme. What does that entail? What benefit does that have to the landlord or tenant that's coming into place?
It is the background checks, but it's also the information and help that if they need it, if they're unsure. But then again,
and they're going to hopefully offer a mediation service. So at the moment, if there wasn't an agent involved, if say Becky, you were renting a house, you went to your landlord with an issue and they perhaps maybe ignored it, or you felt that they didn't deal with your complaint or issue correctly, you actually have no point of call to go anywhere else with it other than take it and escalate it to the courts, which, let's be honest, that's going to cost you a lot of time, a lot of money. And
might
stress.
put a lot of tenants off doing
Yeah,
it.
Exactly. So a lot, unless it's something really, really bad, most people aren't going to do that. That this is what will be the next level to have a mediation service there, or information and support for tenants. So for a tenant's point of view, I think it's going to be really attractive for them, because we have a lot of tenants that register with us, and the first question is, when they ask about their property that they've seen, they say, are you managing it? Because they've had a bad experience with a landlord,
Private landlords.
and they want to have an agent involved that they know that they trust, who's regulated, and that's, they see that as a real positive. And again, that's another reason why a lot of landlords are coming over to manage.
Yeah, and it's mandatory, isn't it, that landlords are registered with this?
Yes.
So actually, if landlord wants the right tenant, wants to look after the tenant, wants their house looked after, I suppose going into the property ombudsman isn't going to be any issue to them whatsoever.
No, not at all. They sign up the register, they pay a small fee, and they're on that register, and they will have to be. But again, that's setting the good landlords from the rogue landlords again.
So it sounds like what they're talking about in general with the rent reform is just to make, tenancies better for landlords and tenants. It doesn't sound like much at the moment to worry about.
Not at the moment, no. Definitely not.
Perfect. So, thank you for all of the information that you've given us today. So just last little bit of advice for landlord. What's the last sentence that you would say to a landlord?
Don't panic right now.
Don't panic. And tenants?
I
Keep looking.
Yeah.
Keep renting. There's a lot of security there for you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been
welcome.
good information to have, and any questions for landlords or tenants, then obviously just let us know.
Give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.